Chelsea have only scored 30 goals in the Premier League this season. That's bad. Even Crystal Palace have scored more. Jiminy Crivens. So if they have all these amazing talented players, why can't they score goals? Let's figure out why. Now there are many reasons for this, and one of the reasons I think is to do with the system and how they play. This Chelsea has played in the 3-4-3 for a long time now. The squad they've got, full of players from everywhere, more players than any team should ever have. They're all suited really to playing in this 3-4-3, except for some who aren't. It's a bit of a mess, to be honest. Like Mudryk is definitely a winger, not a forward in the central here. But the 3-4-3 basically is what suits them because of the players they've got, especially at wing back and defence. So this is what they've got. Now, a 3-4-3 is a different shape in attack. When they go forward, you're going to end up with 3 forwards like this in the central area. Then the wide attack is going to come from the wing backs like this. And then when you push up the midfield, what you end up with is the same attacking shape that lots of teams have, very common, a 3-2-5. That's what you get. And that's kind of common for what you have. But teams know this, and so what they do is they lock the middle of the pitch off to force the ball wide, so all the creativity has to come from Reece James or Chilwell on the other side, close them down, 2v1, and then they can't really create. Also, if you think about chance creation coming from wide, where's the ball going to go from wide? Into the box. Who's going to score a header out of these guys? None. If you've got Havertz might attack the ball, you then need to have a follow-up of a high counter press to try and get up to it. They don't do that. So the ball gets loose in the box, there's no one there to follow up, they don't create chances that way. That's one big problem that they've got. And so to kind of counter this, they've changed things over time. So I put Cucurella here at left centre back, you see. Now, if he's at left centre back and you've got the 3-2-5, he can move forward to make it a different shape, a 2-3-5 by moving into these areas around about here. So you get Silva and Fofana push over, then you've got 2, 3, and this is kind of lopsided, but he can play inside the pitch like this, make underlapping runs, things like that, but this is the sort of general idea. The problem you've got with this though, is that none of these guys can make penetrative forward passes. That's not really what they do. Kovacic's a brilliant player, can dribble all around and keep possession of the ball, not really there to break lines. Enzo is really good at switching play from side to side, fantastic at that, but he's not proven yet that he's really there to progress play through this. And him playing this sort of pass here is risky because of the defensive solidity they have behind him. There's not very much. So that's one of the problems they've got with line-breaking passes. Kovacic, Cucurella, Enzo, not really there. So all the chances need to be created from the creative players who'd have to drop. Now all these forwards, if that's who plays, prefer to play between the lines. So they like to play here rather than as the last line striker, which is relevant because if you play here, then the defense can squish up and move any more space here, and squeezing them up obviously then pushes them slightly further backwards. Now you could change the personnel, so you could take Mudryk out and put Sterling in, that's something they could do, and then you suddenly get penetrative runs in behind, hard to say, harder to do. Sterling gets in here, and you might have a chance over the top, he's offside there, but if he times his run better, he can be in. So that's an option they've got, they don't really do that. And if Sterling gets in behind, or Mudryk does, and this has happened this season, they get into these positions, and then they miss their chances. Havertz, Sterling, Felix, all of them, they all miss lots of chances. We see numbers later on in this video that will show you that happens. Another big problem with this system and individuals is because it's a possession-based system, especially under Potter and Tuchel, what you see is that the build-up is very slow. So although a team might press them high and try and win the ball back up high up the pitch when they're trying to build, what actually happens is that they're very slow to progress the play through the lines, and then by the time they get into this final third, the other team has them blocked off that centre of the pitch for them, and that's why the ball keeps getting funneled out wide. That's why you then don't have use of the strikers in between the middle to do it, and it's not very useful. So what you want to be able to do is try and maybe create chances in transition and do that sort of thing instead. And that's something Frank Lampard tried to do in the first leg of the Real Madrid Champions League tie. He changed his system to more of a 3-5-2. Now, again, not the exact kind of players, but 3-5-2, quite a defensive, negative kind of system, but it allows you to create chances in different ways. Now, if you push like Real Madrid, for example, all the way up the pitch, because they can do that, because Chelsea are allowing them on, what you start to see is that this shape then means that you've got Sterling and Felix high up the pitch because these guys are squeezing them, so there's loads of space in behind. So naturally you can then start hitting balls from deep into these players into space because the space exists. They can time their run that way. And a couple of times Sterling and Felix did get in behind to try and score, but Felix missed his chance, a kind of common theme throughout Chelsea's season. So it's a bit of system problems and then individual problems causing these problems. Another thing, if you think of chance creation, is that rather than relying on the wing backs or penetrative passes, some managers, like Jurgen Klopp, believe that counter-pressing and pressing generally is how you can create chances. And in this team, they haven't really been built to press to do that. And so what you've had is maybe a striker like Kai Havertz up front, missing a chance. There's not a follow-up press to create the chance. But now Frank Lampard is trying to change that a little bit to be more of a 4-2-3-1 kind of shape maybe, to try and win the ball higher at the pitch. And that might be where you start seeing more chances created and more goals. But without a striker, you've not got a player pushing the defence back to create space in behind for playmakers, and so they're not creating chances from through balls, they're not creating chances from the wide areas because there's no striker, and they're not creating in transition because they're trying to squeeze the play up in their 3-4-3 slow possession-based system. And you can see it play out in the data as well. So if I go to some data that I've got from my friends at The Athletic, well, we can see that Chelsea are getting lots of shots on goal. There are lots of shots, lots of them from very low value XG distances, lots in the box, but who's in the box? It's Kai Havertz, not really a striker, or Raheem Sterling, who we know isn't clinical, or João Felix, who takes a shot now and again, but hasn't really scored enough. He scored 2 so far. Then you look at their expected goals number here. This is bad because the actual goals is 27. Now this is a non-penalty chances and goals. So they've scored 3 penalties obviously to make the 30 goals up. That is a huge discrepancy and is either a sign of really bad luck or players who aren't strikers, and they're relying on players who aren't clinical in that box to score. Think of Spurs. Harry Kane always overperforms. They get lots of points out of him that way because he scores more than he should. Chelsea score far under. And it's been a thing for a while. So we look at their expected goals for and against over time. Normally they've been good. Even the first Lampard era, here we go. This is all good, the blue. That's what you want. That's what you want to see. Then Graham Potter comes in and oh lordy, it goes a little bit wrong. And then they start to correct it. We see it's corrected in another graph here. See the end of his time? This is Potter coming in. Tuchel's form started to go down. Potter has started to correct it and then he got fired. And that's what's happened with Chelsea. And we see it here. This is the expected goals over time, same sort of thing. Graham Potter scoring above the XG at the very start, then it starts to come down. He corrected things that were going wrong with Tuchel, came in, made it better, it's got worse again. Lampard's in this little section here that they've got. But this squad has been built over time, from Tuchel over here into Potter, in a 3-4-3 with loads of players. There's loads of problems off the pitch, of course. We know the problems with training, 11v11 and 9v9 games happening at the same time because they have too many players. Thiago Silva's talked badly about how this transition with the new ownership has been bad. It's not going very well. But there are specific reasons why they aren't scoring goals. It's to do with the system and the individuals, and basically they're in a real mess just now. And until they get a real proper manager and structure in place to improve everything with a clear goal in mind, they won't score any goals, let alone the goal that the manager has in mind to score goals.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.